We are very lucky today. We have Ed and Celeste Rickers with us. In 1998, they created Florida Studies Weekly and Arizona Studies Weekly for 4th grade, and it was immediately adopted by 20% of the 4th grade classrooms in each state. Studies Weekly is a unique social studies curriculum and the format is used in public and private schools in approximately 18% of classrooms in the United States. Studies Weekly has now expanded to grades K through 6 in all 50 states and now includes a Science Studies Weekly as a twin platform to its social studies. Please welcome to the stage Ed and Celeste Rickers.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's do a quick sound check. Make sure your microphones are
Hello?
on.
Hello.
Perfect. Ed and Celeste, thank you for being here. You travel all the way from Florida, I understand.
Yeah.
I would much rather be there than in the cold of Utah, but we'll take it.
We're checking the temperatures daily.
Well, I'm sure
It's 18 this morning here, 63 there, so.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
You feel that for sure. Okay, so as the founders of Studies Weekly, founded in 1998, yes?
Right, corporate. The format went back earlier, but
Okay.
our company started in 98.
Gotcha. Can you tell me kind of about those early days of when you founded it, where the inspiration came from, and kind of just your startup story?
Okay, well, I'll try to be very brief on this, but Celeste's father was a Alpine school teacher in Alpine Elementary, and in 1984, he needed to teach 4th grade for the first time, and there was no textbook available. And so he, having been a former graphic designer, decided to just write Utah history and put it in a newspaper format, and he named it Utah Studies Weekly, and he decided that since he needed that, the other teachers in the state would too, so there was about 400 other teachers. He sent samples out to all of them, and roughly 50% of them ordered, and then he just started going forward from there.
Brilliant. And then you ended up expanding that idea in that company.
Yeah. So I became part of the family in 1990. They had been publishing for 6 years, and I barely noticed that what they were doing. I know that he had something that was, I didn't pay much attention to it. There were these yellowing newspapers upstairs in the workroom. And then in 1997, when he retired, he got together with his sisters, who were both Texans, and they together wrote Texas Studies Weekly. And immediately, about 20% of the classrooms in Texas signed up. And so we had a proven concept. It worked in Utah. It worked in a much different state in Texas. So for us, it was proof that it would work anywhere. And so we asked Dad if we could do it for Florida and Arizona, and that's what we did. And then we just started repeating the process.
That's incredible. And it sounds like you really took a product and re-energized it and revamped it, and then were able to scale it nationwide. Can you kind of talk about the scaling process?
Yeah, the scaling process. You know, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of risk because we had a lot of debt to pay for the advertising and the printing up front. But it seemed very simple in our minds because, like I said, it was a proven concept. So for us, for me, there wasn't really any fear. I'm kind of blessed with and cursed with a lack of fear sometimes. And so, but each time we went into a new state and a new year, we kept trying to do more and more. I think on our second year, we did 3 publications, and on our third year, we created 5 new publications and just started, expanding and hiring more teachers. But it was mainly just sticking to Dad's recipe, but trying to just improve the production values, with professional graphic designers. I did everything on Arizona and Florida. I'm not a graphic designer, but I learned quickly. And so it was really cool when we got to Delegate that because the papers looked even better.
Celeste, I would love to direct this question towards you. You both, the product you have, re-energized, recreated, it benefits approximately 5 million students nationwide. What success story have you seen in the lives of these children?
Well, the students themselves, we rarely get to meet. But it's kind of fun to think that it's out there, hopefully doing some good. Once in a while, we do get a letter or as, a story from a teacher. A lot of times the salespeople are out visiting teachers and districts and hear those, those stories. One in particular in South Carolina. Anyway, just one that comes to mind. Their schools had been using our product for, several years, and this particular district had quite a few, used quite a bit of our product. And they sent us a letter, and they said, our scores in reading have gone up 30%. And that, the only thing we can think of is this engaged reading that they're doing with Studies Weekly, because it's, something that they like, something that's exciting. And so that was...
Yeah, that was Sevierville, Tennessee.
It was Tennessee.
Yeah, Randy Kincaid was the district person there, and he called and he said, well, I called him because I noticed that they had ordered it for their whole district. We didn't have a sales force at that time, so it was a surprise. Oh, a $20,000 order. And he said, well, there was a school that had been scoring quite poorly on the state reading tests, and all of a sudden their scores went up 30%. So I went out and asked them what they were doing, and they showed me these little magazines they had for social studies, and I put them in the rest of the district, and our scores went up 30%. So,
That's incredible. That's really exciting. Studies Weekly started as a family company, yes?
Yeah.
So how has family played a crucial role and impacted your business?
Well, in a lot of good ways. We first started out where there were six companies doing what we did, and they were all owned by family members separately. And so in the beginning, we would just get together like once a quarter at her dad's house, and all of us would compare notes and say, this is what I'm doing for Texas, this is what I'm doing in Florida, this is what I'm doing in Pennsylvania. And we would just share each other's success and methods. And then eventually we ended up purchasing those other 5 companies to get Studies Weekly all under one roof. But it's impacted our family. I think it's helped us to be able to instill work ethic in our children. All of our children have been janitors at Studies Weekly for years, and they did other jobs. I have a son there that's our youngest is now doing video editing. So it's been a blessing to the family and to the kids.
It's a great opportunity to be able to work with family. Ed, you've mentioned to me before that you are both blessed and cursed with biting off more than you can chew. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs also are blessed and cursed with this same trait.
We have big mouths.
So what tips, what skills have you developed to help balance this? And Celeste, what have you seen in this effort to also balance this trait?
Well, biting off more than that's always been my MO. Bite off more than you can chew, and then chew it. It's that simple. But I think doing that has helped, obviously, to learn how to hire correctly and how to delegate, because obviously you can't do everything. And sometimes you do bite off more than you can chew, even when you just can't chew it anyway. You have to get help. And so I think it's just been a natural growth to learn how to delegate and share responsibility and share the profits of the company with the people that are helping build the company.
So when it comes to delegation, I think you two probably have a unique experience working as a partnership. How have you two learned to delegate responsibilities within the company?
You want to answer that?
Well, when it was very young and it was out of the garage, I did do a lot of I was answering phones, I was nursing babies at the same time, and all that stuff, and packaging newspapers, and he was laying out product, and it was a one or two person show, right?
Yeah.
But it has been wonderful to delegate all of that stuff, and eventually even delegate, being CEO and everything, and pull away. The past couple of years, we have been retired, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, the all-consuming family thing lasted probably just the first 2 years, and then after that, we had people answering the phones for us and doing the shipping, And but I was always there. It's like I released my family from bondage, but I was entrepreneurial bondage for quite a while.
With that family support at home, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely. And you have to, we always took time for the family, even if I was up at 3 a.m., I'd always be home at least 90% of the time at 6 and have dinner and just kind of block off 2 or 3 hours. And then if I needed to catch up, I'd wait until the kids were in bed, and then I'd work for another couple hours if I had to.
Sounds like you found a great work-life balance.
And we always had a trip to look forward to. Like, she would have been insane with me being gone so much if we couldn't look forward to taking the kids somewhere nice. And then also, we do 2 trips a year. We'd take the kids somewhere, and her and I would always go somewhere. So we've always done that for 30 years. So.
Oh, that's so fun. That's so fun. Well, Ed, I know that today we're doing things a little bit differently, and you have a very special message and presentation that you would like to share with the audience. So at this time, I will excuse myself and hand the time fully over to you.
Well, thank you.
No problem.
Thanks everyone for coming. And I actually asked Andy to cue up this little video. It's 2 minutes long. It kind of shows what Studies Weekly does a little bit. And so Andy, why don't you go ahead and play that? I was going to do this a few minutes earlier, but we'll go ahead.
What you do not have in your hand right now is the online portion of Studies Weekly, which is mainly what Studies Weekly is now, especially this year with everything online. But this is just the little student edition that they get to kind of supplement what's the larger curriculum online.
Thank you. All of those illustrations were created in-house and come directly from our publications, and that's the kind of experience we want to give our students. And we actually have created thousands of 2-minute videos that cover every subject you can imagine. So, but when they ask me, like, to speak about, building a business, I guess I'm kind of an oddball, because for me it's always the psychology, because and what goes on in here, because nothing happens out there until it's created in here. And I'm kind of a geek this way, and I'm always searching for further light and knowledge, and I've just been amazed at the connecting of the dots of quantum physics and quantum mechanics and I don't pretend to be an expert in this, but I thought I'd just maybe introduce some of the principles that I believe that have been at play with building Studies Weekly. And if I do nothing but confuse you today about quantum mechanics, I will have done my job. Dr. John Archibald Wheeler, and did you guys find the QR code in the program? my notes and everything, there's a QR code that'll take you right to this Google Doc. Oh, there it is. So if you want to scan that, you can be able to take home and have links. I'm going to show a video in a moment, and there's other things that I won't have time to show. And you can review this. Maybe it'll be a launching pad for you to discover some of the exciting things about quantum physics and how it relates to everything we're doing in our lives. So I said if I confused you, I'd be successful today. Well, I say that because Dr. John Archibald Wheeler is one of the early founders of quantum mechanics in the first part of the 20th century. He was the guy that first coined the term black hole, so he invented black holes. So he really knew a lot about quantum mechanics. He said, quote, "If you're not completely confused by quantum mechanics, you do not understand it." And that may fill you with hope. Oh, good, this is a subject I can really get my mind around. Here's where the confusion starts. So everything that we see, everything we hear, smell, taste, and touch is made of atoms, right? And we were taught in school, Newtonian physics, that there are atoms and everything's solid. This is solid matter, and this is energy, and there's a difference. Well, quantum mechanics are proving that that's not quite the case. They're saying that the atoms are not real at the atomic level. I know that sounds strange, so, right? Are you confused? Good. I'm making progress here. They're merely possibilities or potentials until they are observed. Quote, this is from Heisenberg. You've probably heard that name before. He was a German mathematician. The atoms or elementary particles themselves are not real, he says. They form a world of potentials or possibilities rather than one of things or facts. Albert Einstein, considered by many to be the founder of quantum mechanics, described it like this. As far as the laws of mathematics refer to reality, they are not certain, and as far as they are certain, they do not refer to reality. Boy, crazy, huh? Are you confused? Wondering how I'm going to tie this together with building a business? Let's watch this short 5-minute video. It helped me understand quantum physics in 5 minutes more than if I read books on it, because I can't understand the books they write. In the next 5 minutes, and then we'll talk about the probability of me tying it all together. So if you want to go ahead and do the Dr. Quantum video, it'd be great.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, 2 bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. We get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
So, pretty crazy, huh? What does this have to do?
Did you guys create that video too?
No. No, thanks for thinking that that might be a possibility. No, we didn't. Very, very weird, isn't it? Quantum physics. Let me get down to my notes here. So, I talked about in our little advertisement, observing your business into existence. As with atoms, our entire lives, our relationships, our circumstances, all of our opportunities are collapsed into existence by our observation. When you look at that mysterious eye that's observing and causing matter on a tiny level to collapse into reality, I ask myself, well, who are the observers in the world? Only the people that are conscious, only those who are aware, right? Human beings. We're the ones blessed with the gift of observation. And so how do we observe our lives into existence? Everything in our lives existed only as a potential until observed sufficiently with the power of our mind's eye, or the eye of faith, the power of consciousness, or in other words, our awareness. And here's proof. And if you have my notes, I won't go to this video, but there's a video on here that with an amazing experiment. This is just done in 2012, 13, and 14. And my humble layman's opinion, non-quantum opinion, I think it's one of the most amazing things that science has proved so far. Because what they did is, you saw how that measuring device collapsed particles from a wave into a particle format. Well, what they did is they took an electron double slit apparatus like that, and they brought someone into the room, and they found that even just a regular human being looking at those slits would collapse that function, that wave function, into a particle, turn it into a reality. Then they did something crazy. They put a blindfold on that person and set them on the other side of the room, and they said, we want you to observe this just with your mind's eye. And it worked. The wave function collapsed into particle when they were, and then they'd say, okay, now stop imagining over there, stop, think about your laundry, and it went back to a wave. And they thought, wow, this is crazy. Like, how could this be? Maybe it's body temperatures, and there might be some phenomenon we're not aware of. Let's put it into a steel vault with nobody in there, and we'll make sure it's on a 3,000-pound steel table that doesn't vibrate or move, and we'll just leave it in there for 3 years. And we'll hook people up, volunteers from anywhere in the world. We'll give them a simple program with earphones where an audio sound will signal them to meditate and see this with their mind's eye, and then another sound will tell them to relax. And they did this with random intervals, and they kept track of it all. And over the 3 years, they had, there was 1,800 people, did 5,700 meditation sessions. And the statistical significance was unquestionable. It was a factor of 8. A z-score of 8, you mathematicians know what that means better than I do. But it's way significant, like no doubt at all. And so what it proved is what Dr. Joe Dispenza, some of you may be familiar with his work, he says that wherever we place our attention, that's where we place our energy. And when we place our attention on something, it's only a possibility until we really focus on it, until we see it. And so the power of our consciousness causes those things that we desire, which exist in the quantum field as mere possibilities, things for which we hope. It causes our observation through our faith collapses into reality those things when we observe them clearly enough. There are only 2 ways. Now, this is what Albert Einstein said. There are only 2 ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. And he also said imagination is more important than knowledge. We've all heard that. I wondered, why did he say that? So what did that have to do with Studies Weekly? Well, for me, the miracle is not so much that we raised a family and built an educational publishing company. A lot of people have built businesses and raised families. The miracle for me is the awareness that I first chose to have a career that would influence the education of children in a positive way 20 years before the means by which this would happen collapsed into my path. I didn't design it. I didn't know how I would do it. I didn't know how it would happen. I only knew what I desired, and I only knew what was going to happen because I was observing it. I can't really explain it. I hope that maybe you have a reference in your own life where you knew that you were going to be able to do something. You could taste it. And you're observing that, and you're literally like vibrating out into the quantum field, and it's finding vibrational matches with possibilities. And when we get grateful for the things that are going to happen before they happen, that's what draws them to us. Even Jesus said, Father, I thank thee for the things you are going to do. And so I was blessed with this crazy faith of, just knowing that this was somehow going to happen. How many times did I tell you before we ever started Studies Weekly in those first 8 years of marriage that we were going to have a business?
Yeah, every day, every week.
Every time we were on a date, I was a broken record. I know we're going to do it. I can feel it in my bones. So I consistently asked the universe for it, and I felt gratitude for its eventual fulfillment before it happened. Thus, by knowing or observing that I would somehow do it, the how and the means collapsed directly into my path. I didn't even know that it had already happened. Like I said, I ignored these newspapers up in the workroom on family nights at the in-laws' house, had no idea, but I knew I wanted to do this, but the universe had set it all up for me in my path. I didn't have to go chase it. All the cool things, all the best things that I've done or been able to accomplish or see happen in my life are things that just fell into place. Now, I've tried to do some other things and had a lot of failures, but those were things that weren't really at my core. I wasn't invested in them. I wasn't observing them as consistently as I did the dream of having an educational effect on children. So whether it's the reality we desire or the one that we fear, or a mixture of both, we are consistently collapsing our desires and our fears into reality. Becoming aware that we can choose is where the miracle begins. So thank you for being interested in this. That was basically my little quantum speech on how this relates to, and when I got a couple more minutes. When I was younger in college, I read a lot of self-help books like Think and Grow Rich, The Power of Positive Thinking. I listened to Zig Ziglar, and you're familiar with a lot of this winning psychology. It's wonderful. We believed it was true. I know it's true because it happened, but now it's just so exciting to me. I'm kind of geeking out over this because quantum physics is showing how it's actually happened. They've proved that our consciousness, these people that collapsed this wave function from around the world, they were in 120 different countries. Time didn't matter. They just instantly collapsed it when they started meditating. Have you ever had an experience where you're thinking about somebody and they call you or something similar like that? That's what's going on. Your attention, you think about them, your attention is where you place your energy, and your energy hits them, and then they go, oh, I think I'll call Darren, And we've probably all had that experience.
I'm guessing you're a big proponent of vision boards then too, is that right?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I've been blessed with a huge Sky Miles account because early on we negotiated that our printer would accept American Express. And so we spent 100x what we used to spend on printing. And I was assigned this family to minister. Now, I'm going to count this as entering the Q&A part, right? So we're right on schedule, 20 after?
We can do that.
Okay, because I'm answering his question. But anyway, to make a long story short, I gave them a trip to Florida. We own a condo there, and there's a family of 6, and it cost me like $88 to send them to Florida. It was just a wonderful thing for their family. When I presented this to them, she teared up, and she brought out her vision board, and she said, 3 months ago, I wrote on here that I want to take my family on a vacation to Florida, a beach vacation. So it was neat. I got to be an angel, but she was visualizing that, and somehow, it had an effect on me. It found a vibrational match. I had the ability to do that. I went over there and said, hey, I was just thinking, would you guys like to go to Florida? So it really is sort of magical the way it can work.
I love magic, and I am absolutely thinking about a vacation to Florida right now.
Oh, she's sharp, Darren. You know how to hire people.
Let me know when you catch that. You guys, we are going to open it up officially for audience questions at this time. As a reminder, obviously, we have a lot of knowledge about quantum dynamics.
No. I'm just a geek enthusiast.
As well as a lot of knowledge and experience with scaling, startup capital, and all the things within that range. So if you have a question, raise your hand. We have about time for 3, and we will bring a microphone to you. Do not touch it. We will hold it in front of you so that our online audience can hear as well.
Thank you. First. What I wonder is how difficult it is to work with education boards these days. And in the climate in the area you're in, do you have to be politically sensitive to everything that's going on, and navigate us through that, if you will?
Oh well, that's a really astute question, and I'll try to be brief so we can answer some other questions. But yeah, Twitter has really turned that into a firestorm because anybody can get on there and they can take something that's could be construed as they're wonderful conspiracy theorists everywhere now, you know, telling the world why we wrote this article. We're like, oh, we didn't know that, you know. We just thought we were writing a fun article. We didn't see their point. But yeah, and so we've run into that. We act as quickly as we can. Last year we recalled 250,000 newspapers, reprinted them, and shipped them out to districts. We only lost one district. That was the district where it hit the fan because there was something that was deemed culturally insensitive. We've been accused of being ultra conservative Hitlers, and we've been accused of being flaming liberal people too. So I guess we're balanced, you know.
As long as it's balanced.
So this is a question followed by a comment. Is anyone else teaching this message of quantum manifestation?
Oh.
And the comment is, it's amazing what you're doing and amazing what you're teaching. And if I can put in a quick plug, I have a similar company that is quantumly being manifested, and I'm going to present at Million Cups here next Wednesday if anybody wants to come.
Nice. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm just a fairly new student at this, but I'd recommend two authors, Joe Dispenza. He has a book. He has a lot of different books, but probably You Are the Placebo is the one I started with. And another guy, Bruce Lipton, The Wisdom of Ourselves. I like Bruce because his credibility is higher because he was a medical school professor at Wisconsin University for 30 years, and he was at the forefront of stem cell research. Resigned his position because the things that he was learning in the petri dish didn't agree with the dogma that they had to teach at medical school. And he talks about how the quantum physics, the messaging of our brain waves is like 20 times faster than the chemical messaging with our hormones, and how we can affect our health, and we can activate genes that aren't active through positive beliefs. You know? So there's a whole world of wonderful things out there to discover. A lot of great reading.
We'll do two more questions.
Yep, test. Okay. Hey, Ed, thanks for being here. I actually started an EdTech company earlier this year in April that we digitize school paperwork processes. So really excited about Studies Weekly. So I think something that'd be relevant to what I'm doing, and just kind of curious about your experience, was early monetization. Was it like a B to C to B where teachers became advocates? Was it selling to districts? Was it word of mouth, teacher growth?
Good question. So it was first just the individual classroom teacher. We sent out these very simple samples of our newspaper with a brochure wrapped around it, standard mail. We sent that to them. I sent out millions of pieces. Like when we went to Florida, there's 10,000 fourth grade teachers in Florida. I sent out 10,000 samples, and 2,000 teachers signed up. And so then we started making the product more robust so that we could appeal to a district. We got state adopted and recognized as equivalent to a textbook. And that's the way it's gone. And the majority of our revenue now comes from districts and being state adopted.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, Common Core, we follow all of that. Whatever it is, we do it. That's our agenda, is to do what they want, the standards. We follow the standards.
So you spent all these years developing this company, and you guys are saying that you're stepping out of that. What's next for you guys?
That's a good question. I'm consulting the quantum field for that. No, that's a really good question. We've kind of taken a 3-year sabbatical. In May, it'll be 3 years, and I don't learn as quick as Darren. Darren took a 6-month sabbatical with his family when he sold his company, and they traveled around the world. I think that was really special what they did. We've done some of that. I have a dream that's been with me from the beginning, since I was 13. Well, I mean, not this specific dream, but it's part of the extension of Studies Weekly. I want to sit tight because I've leaped too quickly before and upset the balance of the company's finances by doing crazy things. The new CEO is calmer than me, and therefore there's more money in the war chest than there's ever been. And so I'm waiting. I want to wait until a certain amount is there that the company doesn't need, and then I want to seed a philanthropic international curriculum company that produces culturally authentic social studies in collaboration with local governments in places like Ethiopia and Haiti and Yukon, Mexico, and wherever you can think of, just low, underdeveloped countries. And I want to develop their curriculum, and I want to employ their local newspapers that are going to be going out of business in the next 20 years. Actually, the newspaper industry is much healthier internationally than it is here in the United States. This building is proof that the newspaper industry is going by the wayside. And so, but Studies Weekly sort of reharnesses the newsprint and gives it a whole new, fresh purpose. And so I think we can keep a lot of web presses operating internationally if we can move quickly. I want to hire an A team of experienced nonprofit international philanthropy experts to, I'm visualizing, nationwide, you go to the movies and scan this QR code, and with a very touching media presentation that lasts 2 minutes that'll show, like, I want to educate a child. For $5, I can educate a child this year. I think I'll educate 10. I'll educate 10 children. And I can see us, I'm visualizing us raising, $100 million a year to fund the printing, to deliver truckloads, airplane loads of curriculum. A kid in Haiti has never seen a textbook that's about Haitian children and their environment and their economy. They just miss that experience. So we've done a little bit of that. We published Jamaica Studies Weekly a few years ago to all the kids in Jamaica. So
That's
learned
incredible.
a lot. It was quirky. It was really different working with different countries.
That'll be exciting. So we'll do one final question with Darren, and I will ask the very last question, and we'll go from there.
You bet, thanks. Celeste and Ed, it's been awesome to have you here, and thank you for sharing your stories and your experience. I know what a difference you've made in so many millions of kids' lives and your team members' lives too. You have a number of people here, both online and in the room, who are students at UVU and BYU. I know that it would be impactful for them if you would each just take a moment and share, from your experience looking back, what piece of advice would you share with them?
Ladies first.
Well, just keep a positive attitude and be grateful, for everything that comes along, all the opportunities. And to be a student is an enormous opportunity. We met at UVU, so that's a good spot.
Yeah. Everything fell into place with education. So I would echo what Celeste has said, and I love students. I love people that are trying to learn and searching for what they want to do. They're hungry to make a contribution to the world. And I would say just learn all you can. And the biggest test is believing. Believe whatever it is you want to do. Your biggest test is believing that you can do it, and just find something that you think that you can make a difference. And if you don't know what it is, search for it. Ask and you shall receive. So
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Don't be afraid to hazard any risk to do it. We were $5 million in debt at one point, and it was scary, but
But here we are now.
Worked out.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. Again, I would like to remind you to use the hashtag RevRoad and share something that you learned today on LinkedIn for the chance to win a $10 Amazon gift card. Give it up one more time for Ed and Celeste and all the wisdom and knowledge and grace that they shared with us today.
Thank you.